at simplifying fractions. And if we think about the word simplify, it kind of sounds like the word simple. And when things are simple, they're easier. And it's easier to work with small numbers than it is big numbers, isn't it? And so we're going to learn how to find equivalent fractions or equal fractions in their simplest or easiest form. For example, if I have 12 20ths, I want to make an equivalent fraction that is equal to 12 20ths. And the way that I do that is I have to find a common factor for both the numerator and the denominator. A fraction is in its simplest form when the numerator and the denominator have no common factor other than 1. So as you become more fluent with your math facts, you might be able to just look and see what a common factor is. But until you do, you can write them out. So I'm going to write the factors for 12. I know that 1 times 12, because 1 is always a factor, and you can multiply it times itself. I can see that it ends in a 2, which means that it's an even number. And all even numbers have a factor of 2. So I have to think 2 times what equals 12, and I'll think, all right, well, 2 times 6 equals 12. When I know my divisibility rules, I can add 1 plus 2, and that equals 3. And 3 can be evenly divided into 3. So 3 is a factor. So 3 times something equals 12. And I can count by 3s and realize that 3 times 4 equals 12. So the factors for 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now I'm going to do the same thing for 20. Again, I know that 1 and 20 are factors because 1 is always a factor and 1 times itself. I'm going to look at this last digit and I see it ends in a 0, which means it's an even number. And even numbers always have a factor of 2. So I have to think 2 times what equals 20. And I know it's 2 times 10. Well, the rules of divisibility say that if I add the 2 digits together, 2 plus 0, which is 2, and 3 can be evenly divided into that number, it's divisible by 3. Well, 2 cannot be evenly divided by 3. So 3 is not a factor. It ends in a 0 though. Okay, so all factors, anything that ends in a 0 has a factor of 10, but it also has a factor of 5. So I know 5 times something equals 20, and I can count by 5s and see 4 times 5 equals 20. So all the things I can multiply by to get 20 would be 1 times 20, 2 times 10, or 4 times 5. All right, so I have all the factors here. In order to simplify, the definition again of a fraction being in simplest form is when the numerator and the denominator have no common factor other than 1. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that one. We want to find the greatest common factor, the biggest one that they share. Well, they don't share 12, they don't share 20, they don't share 6 or 10 or 5. What they share is 4. So the greatest common factor in this case is 4. In order for it to be an equivalent fraction, I have to do the same thing to the numerator and the denominator. So I'm going to divide the numerator by 4, and I'm going to divide the denominator by 4 to find the equivalent fraction. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. 3 and 5 are both prime numbers, and there's nothing else I can divide evenly into 3 and 5. They do not have a common factor. So 12 20ths in its simplest form, or simplified as they sometimes refer to, is 3/5. Let's do another example. let's take 10/14. Hopefully, you will eventually be able to look at the numbers and know a common factor. But again, until you do, let's just write them out. 1 times 10 equals 10 because 1 times itself is those are always factors. I can look at it and it ends in a 0, which tells me 10 is a factor, but we already knew that. But it also tells me that it's an even number. And we know that even numbers always have a factor of 2. So 2 times something equals 10, and it's 5. So all the factors for 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. All right, now I'm going to go to the 14. Again, I know 1 times 14. I look and see it is an even number. So 2 is also a factor. 2 times 7. Then I'm going to see, for the divisibility rules say if I add the digits in 14, so in other words, 1 plus 4, if I add those together, I get 5. If 3 can go evenly into 5, then 3 is a factor. 3 cannot go evenly into 5, so 3 is not a factor in this case. 4 is not, it does not end in a 5 or 0, so 5 nor 10 is a factor. So we are complete. All the factors, and I'm going to scoot these down a little bit, are 1, 2, 7, and 14. 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. So for its simplest form, we want to find the greatest factor that they share. That isn't 1, so we'll get rid of that, because if we divide by 1, we're going to get the exact same answer. Well, they don't share 10 or 14 or 5 or 7, so their greatest common factor is 2. So in order to put it in simplest form, I have to do the same thing to the top and the bottom. If you do it to the bottom, you have to do it to the top. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So 10/14 in its simplest form is 5/7. They're equivalent. 5 is a prime number, 7 is a prime number. And they won't always end in prime numbers, but 5 and 7 do not have a common factor other than 1. So this is its simplest form, and this would be my answer.